When you think of journaling fails, what are the first things that come to your mind? Hi everyone, this is Tina with Overall Adventures. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm freezing, so I'm wearing my grandmother's blanket. So just take it. But I think we're gonna need some color. We're gonna need some cheer today because we're gonna be talking about journaling fails. And before I tell you what I think are some journaling fails, I want you to just pause and think for yourself. I'm very curious. When you think of journaling fails, what are the first things that come to your mind? Just think about it. I think it's very telling and revealing what those first few thoughts are. And I want you to just take note of that before I infiltrate you with my own ideas of what I think a journaling fail actually is. So think about it. If you want, just pause the video, jump into the comments, and tell me the first things that came to your mind when you think of failure and journaling. Okay. It's really easy with social media to get sucked into other people's ideas. So I just wanted to take that moment to have you think for yourself. I'm going to tell you now what I thought of when I think of journaling fails. The first thing that came to my mind was skipping days in journaling. For so long, I felt like if I skipped a day or missed a couple of days, I was like a bad journaler. That's the first thing that came to my mind as a fail. Another thing that I think about is not having an aesthetic notebook or not having aesthetic or neat, beautiful handwriting or not having pretty journal entries. That's definitely on my mind. Another fail that I think about would be writing super short, scatterbrained entries. Another one would be not being honest with myself, not bringing my journal places, like if I travel somewhere really cool, like forgetting it or just not taking it with me everywhere. Yeah. Oh, and then the last one, this one really used to get me, would be if something big happened in my life and I just forgot to document it. That would really make me feel like I failed as a journaler. And I just read something, okay? I read something recently that had a totally different view on what failure in journaling actually is. So I'm gonna read it to you. It's a little long. Stick with me because I promise it's gonna make sense. So it's from this book, A Walk Between Heaven and Earth. My friend Heather Mattern, and she has a YouTube channel. She sent me this book. We're doing a little book journal swap. And it's about journaling. So if you're interested in journaling, highly recommend this book. This woman writes in this book on the topic of failure in journaling. She says, "A journal is a private, fragmentary scribble book. It doesn't have to be anything specific. And so it is easier to give yourself permission to fail. And failing, that is, writing without wanting to produce a certain form and without wanting to achieve a certain result, seemingly giving up intention and seeing what comes of it, learning from the process as it unfolds, is a great way to learn about the creative process. This is a mystical path. You walk on it daily without knowing what will come tomorrow, but you trust by writing down the daily fragments of awareness that a larger network will gradually emerge, that images will come forth, a theme or direction may appear, all of which you could have never outlined, but which emerge out of deep necessities within us. Trusting that inner necessity, not defining it prematurely, not curbing it, but looking at the odd child that is born out of us without fear, learning from it, is to stay in the flow of creation." So I'm going to break down what I think she's talking about here. Whew. Here's what I hear when I read this. I think about how failing in journaling is putting an expectation of a product or a finished thing on our notebook. So for example, one expectation I know some people have is making their journal look really aesthetic. That's an expectation. That's putting our journal in a box. Another one, I want to sound really smart, or I want to sound a certain way so that I can pass this journal on to my grandchildren one day. That's putting ourselves in a box and our journal in a box. Let's see, I want to use my journal to become a better writer so that I can produce a book one day or a collection of poetry or something like that. again, putting expectation on our notebooks, on our journals, to be a certain product. So you've heard, I'm assuming, you've heard of product versus process. And so a product would be a book. A product would be a pizza. A product would be, it could even be a place. It's a destination. That's how I think of it. It's an intention. It's something you want or somewhere you want to go, or a physical thing that you want to create. On the flip side, we've got process, which is all about, and I like to think of the process as the journey. It's not about the destination, it's about the car ride there. It's about how long it takes to knit the blanket. It's about how long it takes to journal. Does that make sense? So journaling is not about creating a product or a book or something for somebody else. It's all about the journey. And the real way to fail in our journals is by putting that expectation and those limitations on our journal. So what would you do? What would you write if you didn't have any expectations whatsoever, right? If you just allowed complete focus on the journey? What would you do? What would you do? And because I have to bring this to social media as another example, because sometimes I think I don't know, I have all these thoughts and I think maybe I'm gonna ground it. I'm gonna ground it in a metaphor here. So you guys know, you know TikTok, you know social media, you know what we see online. Social media is product oriented. It's all about presenting the process in such a short way and focusing on how awesome the final destination is. So I'm going to give you an example. I really like watching lately these like TikToks on people making dresses or making clothing from scraps. And that process of making a dress takes hours, correct? But in a TikTok, I'm seeing the process in 10 seconds. It's not really about the process. It's about how cool the dress looks at the end. And it's about seeing these pieces of paper then become the pieces of the fabric and how quickly it can kind of merge together. Or another example, it's very satisfying to watch someone hold an onion, flick it towards you, and then all of a sudden it becomes like diced, right? Or here's a bunch of tomatoes, they flick it towards you, and then it's tomato sauce, right? These quick shots are taking away the beauty and the time that is actually required for the journey, for the process. The way that we're editing right now is so addicting because it is focusing on the product instead of the actual journey. And it's human nature, right? Like we're in a car ride, we just want to get to the place. We don't want to necessarily enjoy the journey there. But that's human. That slow burn, what it takes to make something or to have a real like long life is a process. It doesn't just happen. So that's what I want to share with you today. Take it as you will. The way to fail in your journal is by forcing it to try to be product or destination oriented rather than about the long and winding journey. I mean, when in your life do you get to do something every day without a goal? That's what's amazing about journaling, is you can just do it because it's just your time, your place, your opportunity to wander, to dream, to not have to be anywhere at a certain time, to not have to always have this certain routine or a certain way to be. You can just be. So that's my thought for you. I hope that kind of changes your perspective on what failure and journaling can actually be. Let me know, talk to me in the comments. I'm curious to hear what you think of this. And yeah, sending you creative fire as always. Peace.